Welcome everybody, Brother Dan Goodwin here, God's Final Jubilee Ministries. We're glad to have you with us tonight. I've got a special guest here, and we're in a special location, as you can see. I'm not at the God's Final Jubilee Studios. We are in an undisclosed location. We're in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing, we're doing interviews here at Prosser News. I've been here for several days. Pastor Ray Bentley just flew in. I'm going to introduce him in a second here in his new book. And we're doing interviews at Prosser News together tomorrow, and which is the 20th of December, and whenever this won't air on YouTube for about a week, but we're here in December, and we're going to tell you about Pastor Ray's new book, and I'm excited to be here with him. And so Pastor Ray,
Dan,
many of the folks don't know you.
Yeah.
We want them to get to know you. You pastor a church,
yes,
a little church of 7,000 or something like that.
Something like that.
In I call it San Diego, but it's actually a different name, isn't it?
Yeah, Rancho Bernardo, the area, but it's North County, San Diego.
Okay.
Beautiful place.
It is.
It's kind of the other Holy Land.
I've been there. And,
you have?
Yeah.
It's been great to have you there.
And it's a great place, and it was fun. Nice weather.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
it is a beautiful place.
But it's different. It's California.
It is different. It is California.
Would you?
There are Christians in California. I just want to say, I'm a pastor. There's many Christians in California. God's done some great things there. Great revivals.
Yeah.
You know, great outpourings. I was a product of the Jesus people.
I know.
In the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And
Chuck Smith, you came out of that
movement.
Yeah,
Pastor Chuck Smith and Calvary Chapel.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's my heritage. So, yeah, God has moved in a lot of, you know, where sin abounds, grace does much more abound.
All right. So, Pastor Ray here, I consider him a pretty good authority on all things Israel. And I think a lot of other people look to you for information. You've been to Israel how many times?
Many times. More than I stopped counting at 20.
And next time you're taking me, or is...
Yeah, well, yeah, you need to go. We need to go.
Yeah, I'd love to.
There's nothing like
I was awfully
Israel.
jealous last time I talked to you. And,
oh,
yeah, I'm in Israel,
man.
Yeah, thanks for telling me. Yeah, I was, because we were there, my wife and I went in June of 2017.
Nice.
Not the greatest month to go, but we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have a hunger to go back.
Yeah. Well, you know, every believer that has the Spirit in them, if something draws you to the Holy Land. I mean, it's where the Bible comes into 4D. You know, it literally comes alive.
It's where it all started.
It's where it all started.
It's where it's all going to end.
And it's where God sent His Son. It's where Jesus walked, lived, breathed, taught, healed, delivered, raised people from the dead, where He's, you know, was crucified, buried, and risen, and He's coming back.
Is there still some where He breathed out? Is there still any atmosphere over there somewhere?
You know, it's a holy place. It's the Holy Land, and it's very, very special. And once you go, you want to go back again and again and again. It's very drawing, very powerful.
Okay, so tell us your church. How long you been at your church? Did you start? You started?
Yeah, I started this church 1984 in a Bible study in a park, and we met in the park for about a month, and then we rented a school, and we started filling up the school, multiple services, and after about 5 years we bought some land and we built a church. Then it really exploded and went to multiple services, and we outgrew it, and we bought some more land and we built another bigger place, and then we bought more land and we built a school. So we've got nearly 1,000 kids in a Christian private school, Maranatha Christian Schools. Yeah. And
I didn't
we got
see
the church.
that.
Oh, you got to see it.
And I read about it in something I read about you as I was preparing for that. I remember reading about a school.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I can imagine what stuff costs out there.
Yeah, everything is expensive. But you know, the good thing is we have a good dad, and he supplies all of our needs according to the riches of His glory in heaven.
Santa Clara, California, $1 million an acre.
Oh gosh,
I know a guy there. He has a church.
Yeah,
they do not own a parking lot.
Ooh.
They bust them in from these different parking lots.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy $1 million parking lot?
Yeah, exactly.
Pavement. I mean, just
yeah.
So different world out there.
Yeah,
of course, God has different men that can live in different places. Not everybody could go to the Philippines or God has people that are cut out for different places. Me, I think my calling is Hawaii. God just hasn't given me the directions yet.
Many are called, but few are chosen.
All right, so Pastor Ray Bentley here. He's been a pastor. Was that your first church?
No, this is actually my...
You say nobody survives their first church.
No. This is my third church. And started a church when I was 20 years old at Calvary Chapel out in the East County of San Diego. Then I was part of another church called Horizon with Mike McIntosh for a couple of years. And then I moved up further north and started a brand new church.
Go farther enough north, you'll be a Yankee.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so been pastoring since before '84, and been to Israel. You're heavily involved in a lot of things with Israel, I know. And some of that comes out in this book. Now, Pastor Ray has written some other books. We're mainly just going to talk about this in our show tonight, and we've been a busy day. You just flew in, and I picked you up at the airport.
We hit the ground running.
And I haven't let this guy rest. Took him to a church where I spoke tonight.
Yes,
there was no way to bring you here and then make it over there.
No.
There wasn't no way to do it. So, but you needed the preaching anyway. So your deacons called me and said that you needed preaching.
I did. I needed it. I got convicted. I got ministered to. It was a great message.
In fact, they were having a board meeting tonight, and they were discussing a new pastor.
Oh, great! Oh man, I'm in trouble.
It's fun being a Christian, isn't it? People think being a Christian's no fun. I'll tell you, nothing like it. We know where we're going when we die. Everything's settled. Dad, our Heavenly Father makes some great adventures for us, and one of the greatest
experiences that I've had are the people I meet along the way, and so you're one of them. It's very cool to meet you.
There's good experiences and there's bad experiences. So now I know that you do some of the feast at your church.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Now some people go too far and they think we're required. You do it because you want to teach people what they did and what it meant.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about some of those and how your people react to
them. Well, most churches will probably do what we learn of the spring feasts, have a Good Friday services, Passover, and then we usually kind of pass the second one, which is the next day of unleavened bread, but it begins that, and that's part of the Passover.
Now, the Passover, do you actually do some of it?
We just have a Good Friday service. We have communion, and then I'll share about that. And then, of course, Easter is the Feast of First Fruits, and then we do also honor kind of Pentecost. Remember, this is the day the church was born. But in 2008, after meeting Mark Biltz,
you started doing something.
We started doing.
Did you blow the shofars?
Yeah, we did the Feast of Trumpets, and what I told everybody is, look, this is the next feast to be fulfilled, and so this feast in the spring, from Passover to Pentecost. Jesus was crucified on Passover, buried on the Feast of Unleavened Bread, resurrected on the Feast of First Fruits, and the Holy Spirit fell on the Feast of Pentecost. Boom, 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 boom. Literally on the day.
Moment of the
very day of the first four.
Yeah.
Then you have this summer harvest. There's no feast, which is kind of...
they're out working in the fields.
They're working in the fields. Picture of the church age.
Yeah.
Harvest time. But now we're 2,000 years down the track, Stan, and so the next feast to be fulfilled.
It's time, Lord.
The next feast to be fulfilled will be the Feast of Trumpets.
Right.
All God said about it is, I want everybody to come to Jerusalem, come to my temple, and blow the memorial horns, blow the trumpets. Now, looking into that, we decided that I would do a teaching. I said it was on Monday night. I'll never forget it. I believe it was on September 29th, 2008. And, people are going, what? What are we doing the Feast of Trumpets? That's for the Jews. I said, well, it says they're the feasts of the Lord.
Yeah, they're His feasts.
They're His feasts. So if He's your Lord, they belong to us. And we believe that the Feast of Trumpets is going to be fulfilled by the rapture.
Right.
So wouldn't it be great? And it was a Monday night. I said, everybody come, and we're going to have food. We're going to have a party, because God said they're feasts. And we're going to blow some trumpets. And I'm going to do a Bible study about the coming of the Lord, the rapture of the church, and then to top it all off, we said, and all the kids 12 years of age and under, I'm going to buy them, I'm going to give them a little plastic trumpet. And I told all the kids, look, you play the most important role of the whole night. When Pastor Ray gives you the signal, you're to blow that horn and make as much noise as you possibly can. Can you imagine what you tell 1,000 kids? They're like, what? So even parents called me and they said, what are you doing, this crazy Feast of Trumpets Jewish thing? I didn't even want to go. My kids said, we're going. I said, why do you want to go? I'm getting a trumpet. Pastor Ray said, I get a trumpet, I'm going to get to make some noise. I'm going. So anyway, we did that. And Dan, that was the first year we ever did it. It was on Monday, I believe it was September 29th, 2008. And guess what happened on that day? The stock market crashed on Monday. 777 points. We lost $7 trillion. 7% of the, Dow or whatever. And man, the phone was lit up all, hey man, what's going on? And I said, I don't know, rapture could be tonight, man. You better come to church and hear about it. So it kind of lit us up, it kind of got us started. And we've been doing it every year. Every year it's packed out. And yeah, we're not observing the feast. We are celebrating and remembering and rehearsing, because part of the feast is their rehearsals. So, people need to know that for 1,500 years, they were celebrating, they were rehearsing Passover from the time of Moses to the time of Christ. And then that year when Jesus went to Passover, after 1,500 rehearsals, it became reality. So that's what we're working toward, is the real horns and the raptures. So,
okay, so let's talk about your new book just a little bit. And here it is. It's On the Mountain of the Lord.
Yeah.
And that shows up in the book. I've seen the phrase in there.
Yep.
And you have a co-author here. Tell us about...
Oh, yes.
I never can say her last name. The woman's famous. She's written like 70 books.
Yeah, her and her husband. It's Bodie Thoene. It's
that doesn't look like Thoene.
It looks
from Maine.
It looks like it's Thoene.
Thone or something
Thone.
like that.
But her name is actually pronounced Bodie.
But I'm sure my viewers, I'm sure if you've been in a Christian bookstore, you've seen this lady.
Yes, the last few decades, her and her husband Brock are, historical novelists. And they've, done like the Zion Chronicles and many different book series. They've written some 70 books, sold some 35 million copies. Great storytellers.
She's just about caught up to my book series.
Yeah, exactly, right. And Brock is kind of the researcher. And anyway, through a divine set of circumstances, I met them up in Los Angeles. And then I had this idea about the mountain of the Lord, the coming of the Lord, their storytelling ability. So a little bit like, Jerry Jenkins with Tim LaHaye. Yeah. Tim LaHaye is kind of the prophecy guy.
I've met Jenkins.
And Jerry Jenkins is a friend of mine too. And so I thought, let's combine, our talents and experiences and histories and resources. And anyway, I came up with this book, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
All right, so how come we couldn't get her here for an interview?
Yeah, we'll have to work on that.
Well, she's better looking than you.
She is better looking than me.
So yeah,
she's famous.
But we're glad they're looking forward to you over at Crossing News.
Oh, praise the Lord!
They're looking forward to the interviews, and I get to do them. And I'm going to ask you where Cain got his wife. I'm going to ask her all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, great! Oh, that's one mean preacher to another.
Yeah. So, but it's a great book, and I want to say this right at the beginning to those of you on my program here that know me and you read my books maybe. I highly recommend this. I read this book and I couldn't put it down. I couldn't put it down. It was so wonderful. And when you can't put a book down, you know it's interesting.
Yes.
And when you can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Yeah. And I got to be careful what I say. I wouldn't want to give anything away. We've had a few laughs about something that I said. Look, if you let something happen to this person, I'm gonna cancel your interviews.
The characters, you fall in love with them.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like they're real.
They are. I mean,
we were joking that the people in his church had some of the characters on the prayer list.
Something tragic happens and somebody ends up in the hospital and they go, Pastor Ray, put him on the prayer chain. I say, they're not a real person, but
these people ain't real.
But you get caught up in it.
That's funny. When we talked about that on the phone, I mean, I never laughed so hard in a long time. It was so funny. But we're going to get into the plot a little bit. We have to be careful. We don't give anything away.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I was so interested. Where's my little thing? I'm going to bring that one in just a little bit. There we go. There, get a little closer on the YouTube. I want to say this thing captivated me. I mean, I got to know who the characters were.
Yeah.
There's a love story in here. If you don't love a love story, there's something wrong with you. So, love story in here. There's redemption in here. There's Jewish customs. There's feast day. There's places.
Yeah.
I mean, the mountain where Elijah calls the fire down from heaven. That's in here. The story begins in Great Britain.
Yes.
With I lost his name.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack Garrison.
Jack Garrison's the main character. He's an American.
Begins with him, and he meets Lev, the Jewish guy.
Yeah, a Messianic Jewish guy.
Saved Jewish guy.
Yeah.
And they're both headed to the same place.
Yes.
For different reasons.
Yes.
Israel. So tell us, 3 characters. Just tell us who the 3 characters are. Okay. A little bit about them.
So the main character is a guy named Jack Garrison. And Jack Garrison, again, not wanting to give it all away, but something has happened in his life that is he literally gets run over emotionally, tragically, where he loses his faith in God. He's literally believed and there's a good God in heaven, and then how could there be a good God when he let this happen to me? And he's just like that. And so basically this story, because he ends up being on part of a peace commission, recommending peace for the Middle East.
He's in some sort of a UN agency.
Yes.
Maybe not the same, but something like that.
It's a committee that is making recommendations for peace, and so he's in it, and he has this friend.
And they're anti-Israel.
Yeah, the group is anti-Israel. He is against Israel, kind of against God, and he's got this friend, Lev, who is Messianic, and they used to be friends in college, and Lev is a believer, and he starts telling him, hey, you better be careful.
What's with the wrestling thing that you mentioned about it? It was just well, you got to have something about the character, or is there something about that later on?
I'll just say this.
Did I give something away?
There's a little bit of me in these stories, so I have a wrestling background.
Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, so a lot of the stories actually, and there's miracles and supernatural things that happen, are real things that have been experiences that have been put into a fiction book.
Okay.
And then, like you say, there's all kinds. There's history, historic places. It starts in London, which is fascinating, an amazing place, kind of a Charles Dickens beginning with.
And there's Jack. A spy. There's somebody following.
Yeah, there's somebody. He's looking over his shoulder, and he doesn't know. Is this playing in my head? Is this real? Is this legitimate? Am I nuts? And so that's another thread that gets unraveled in this thing. Follows him. Next thing you know, he's in Jerusalem, and his attitude is, look, I don't believe in a God. And there's a lot of people like this now. I don't believe in a God where there's old men with beards walking in the deserts in the Middle East, having visions to solve modern problems. And I think that's the attitude of a lot of people today. They just, the Bible prophets and prophecy, nonsense. And yet, when you see what is happening and what is unfolding, this novel, it gives an opportunity to let things that are literally taking place. Like I say, the stories here are true, but have been put into a novel.
Well, I knew a name or two of some real people.
There's some real people in there.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some people, why change their name? Benjamin Netanyahu is...
Now, the other guy that I met at your church, is it okay to mention him?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Robert Murray, he's a real guy.
He's a real guy, and the thing about him and Netanyahu is in the book. It really happened.
It really happened, and it makes a very dramatic part of the story. So, yeah.
All right, so now you left out one of the most... The
girl. Oh my gosh, she's going to capture your hearts. So Jack Garrison, he has to go to Israel to, do research and make this report, give recommendations to Europe. And they assign him this, young...
bodyguard.
Israeli special forces, beautiful, attractive, you know, says she's the cousin of Wonder Woman.
And she whoops a guy in the gas station.
Yeah. So, you know, anyway.
She carries a Glock 43.
Yeah.
Exactly what I carry.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's assigned to Jack. And so they're kind of, you know, going at it a little bit, but then they start getting to know each other, and, you know, there's some sparks that start flying in the first book here.
Yeah. Now, go ahead and say, in case you forget, this is book 1. It's going to be a 3.
It's going to be at least a 3-book series, and it's called the Elijah Chronicles, because let's just say Jack is going to have a supernatural encounter with a guy that calls himself Eliyahu, the Hebrew name for Elijah.
Okay.
So.
All right. So the 3 characters: Lev, which is the Messianic Jewish guy.
Yeah.
And
Jack Garrison is the main American guy character in there, and then Bet Diekman.
So it's not Betty.
Yeah, you know, in Israel it's Bet. In America it's Betty. You read it as you want.
I know it's spelled B-E-T-T-E.
Yes.
And I figured it was Betty, but
yeah, you could. That's the American way of saying it.
Okay.
In Israel it's Bet.
Well, I'm a gringo from America, so, and I used to drive a car up in Maine.
Yeah.
So I got my issues. And folks, the books that I write, they see stuff comes out. So I am what I am. So nice bookmark in the book. They're all hardbacks, right?
Yes,
this is a hardback. Yeah. I have here a rare specimen.
Yeah.
For $1,000. I'm willing to sell this paperback.
That's an advanced copy I sent to you that fortunately.
It says up here, uncorrected, page proof, not for resale.
Yeah.
So you got to meet me in an alley somewhere with some money, and I will sell you this paperback one that I have read and made marks in here.
You know, look, he wrote all over my book.
Yeah. And I told Brother Ray this in the car. Every yellow paper on here is something that I want to talk about with him. And I made these marks in the book before I became the host at Prosser News, before I thought I'd ever interview you.
Yeah.
I made these marks because they were of interest to me and I wanted to look at them again. Either a historical thing or something that was interesting.
Yes.
And lo and behold, I'm interview, and so I put a sticky on all those, and these are things we're going to try to get to. We'll never get to half of them, but we'll got something right here about nukes enabled world destruction. I don't know why I wrote that, but the whole world is independent. Oh, this is Lev, and this is Jack talking to somebody here. He's talking to Lev. And Lev says, stay with me here. It's true that before the first atomic bomb, humans had no way to kill off the whole race. And I thought, Ray Bentley's read my 7 Clocks book.
That's
but
right.
you wrote this before my 7 Clocks book.
But we're on the same page.
I have a chapter on the nuclear clock. And this is my thought. Never before could man destroy him. So now we could do it tenfold.
Well,
and so I thought this sparked my attention. I got all these marks in here.
Nice.
And the whole world is interdependent like never before. Lev continued. I mean, the price of crude oil in Saudi Arabia determines whether a farmer in Iowa makes money or loses money on his corn. See, this is interesting.
It's very interesting.
And this applies to all of us.
Yes, it does.
That someone over there in the Middle East controlling the price of oil determines what happens to some farmer. Yeah. And somebody buying something at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing there that jumped out. And we got Golan here, the Golan Heights. We got is Israel a fulfillment of prophecy? Clearly, Lev had bought into the modern Israel as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy narrative. In Lev's view of the world, the Bible was inerrant word of an almighty God. And of course, you and I agree with that.
Yeah, we do.
But Jack didn't.
Jack does not.
And
not at that time.
So the discussions between these guys and the places they go and what he sees is so inspiring to us.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I already loved Israel, but when you read the book, it gives you a more of a longing of a love and appreciation for that place.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
It is. You know, and I think it's an honest discussion where it's not just one-sided hammering you, this is what it is and how you should think. Everybody has a side, everybody has a perspective, and you get to hear all the different voices, but then, you know, there's something that kind of guides you to, well, wait a second, the Bible, what the Bible said is happening. What God said is real. It's coming to pass. And it starts answering some of those questions that maybe people don't have. Maybe questions you've had, questions family members, friends have had. And it gives you a different perspective to be able to answer some of those things.
Now Jack has the perspective that Israel is wrong and the Palestinians are right. That Israel is hurting them, causing the problem. So Jack goes over there with the world view, as we can call it, the world Israel view that the press has, and the wrong view.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we should say it or not, but he's in a process of getting re-educated over there. And we get to watch it.
Yeah.
We get to see how his eyes are open.
And it's very subtle, and it's little by little, and it's like barriers are being removed from his mind. Light is coming into his understanding, and then he starts going, wait a second, well, if that's true, then what about, and one thing leads to another. So it's a great read.
We won't tell anyone how Jack winds up.
Yeah.
I think they can use their imagination. The book is teaching us all something.
Yeah.
And we watch his eyes get open.
Yes.
And he sees.
Yeah, we get to go on. We get to go on the adventure, and like I say, there's a lot of Jack Garrisons in the world right now.
Oh yeah.
And they've got a background with God, but something happened that ran over them emotionally.
Don't you think there's more hatred for Jews now than there was years ago?
Let's put it
here.
I would say that among some, it's like, well, they probably getting what they deserve, or they did something to ask for this, or how they are. There's deep-seated prejudices that people don't even realize are there. And 70 years ago, World War II, Hitler, Holocaust. It's sad how much that can still be here, but God is wanting to say something like, hey, you know what? I'm not finished. I'm not done, and I'm still on the throne. I'm working everything out.
Yeah. All right. Anything? Any other tidbits that you would like to share with anybody about maybe something in the book that you think you'd like to share?
Well, I think it introduces, again, Jack is somebody that's going on a journey. And I think you have sympathy for him, even, as you're listening to his attitude.
His wife has died recently.
Yes.
And that's weaving in there, his sorrow for missing her.
Yeah.
A lot of emotion comes out in this book.
Yeah,
at the beginning, he goes to this play or some, what is that?
Yeah, he goes to a play in London.
And his wife loved it.
And it was his wife's favorite, and he was just like,
He's there because it reminds him of her.
Yeah, and then he listens, and he goes, he listens differently because she's not there, and so, yeah, it's very powerful. It's a very emotional. You get caught up with the characters. Like you said, you're going to be wanting to pray for them.
There's some terrorism in here.
There is, just like there is right now.
Yeah.
In Europe, in Israel, and America.
All right, now, just so my viewers know, I do not have any of these books. Pastor Ray Bentley is the author. They are on Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon.
Is that the best place?
Yeah.
You can't just walk in a bookstore and get it off the shelf.
No, you can't.
You could order it at a bookstore. Tell them you want it.
Yes, you could order it. That would be great.
But you get it quicker just going on Amazon.
Yeah, it'll be there in a couple of days. And yeah, that's great.
So if you want, it's called On the Mountain of the Lord. On the Mountain of the Lord, Pastor Ray Bentley.
Bodie Thoene.
And
Brock Thoene.
Bodie Thoene. If she was here, I'd be in trouble.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners at some point probably read some of Brock and Bodie's writings. Now, I will say this, though. Neither Brock or Bodie, in all of their 70 novels, have ever written a novel about what's happening right now until this book.
They've written past stuff.
Always in the past.
Wow.
So that was the novelty that I said, hey, I've noticed you guys have never written about what's happening in the world, in Israel, in America. Right now, that's what I want to propose to you. And they said, well, let's pray about it. They prayed about it, and they said, the Lord said it's time. So,
well, I'm sure some are wondering, and why I keep looking down, Casey. I've got Facebook Live going here, so I keep looking. We've got some good comments. Several folks said they can't wait for the Protestant News interview.
Oh, good.
Alan Hatfield, it's gone now, but he said, he said the first person he ever heard the 7 feasts from was me.
Wow.
My book. Alan's in Texas. By the way, Alan, we're just 3 hours from you. We're in Oklahoma City. And don't mind us, YouTube. We're talking to Facebook right now. And they're not going to be on for a week. So can you please give the title again? On the Mountain of the Lord. I know it's backwards on your Facebook page there, but On the Mountain of the Lord, Ray Bentley.
Yeah, I can mention, why is it called On the Mountain of the Lord? And the reason,
that's a good question. That's a good thing to talk about.
The reason that I call it On the Mountain of the Lord is something that came to me. Everybody, that's been read through the Bible, and you start in Genesis, and everybody longs for the paradise and the Garden of Eden, and something that for whatever reason kind of went over my head for many years as a pastor that I didn't know is that the Garden of Eden, paradise, was on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Probably the most tall mountain on the planet Earth. It's found in Ezekiel chapter 28. There's a prophecy about the king of Tyre, but obviously it's the spirit behind the prince of Tyre, and it's really talking about Lucifer. And God is saying, you were there with all the precious stones of fire. And Ezekiel 28. Or is it Isaiah 28?
Isaiah 28, yeah. It's Ezekiel 14 and Isaiah 28.
Okay, okay. Anyway, and he goes, you were there on the holy mountain of God.
You're right.
So what I realized is that in paradise, in the Garden of Eden, we started on the top of the mountain with a view, and heaven and earth were married together. When we got kicked out of the garden, then we literally had to descend the mountain.
I never thought of it that way.
And then we were kicked out into what's called the howling wilderness. There's thorns, there's thistles. We're separated from God. Well, God's up in the Garden of Eden, and he loves man and he longs for him. So the story of the gospel from Genesis, when we get kicked out and come down the mountain, is eventually God sending his son out of the eastern gate, down the mountain into the wilderness of thorns and thistles, grabbing Adam and Eve by the hand and walking us back up to the mountain of the Lord, back through the eastern gate. Remember the cherubims with the swords, fiery swords? Adam and Eve, if we tried to cross that, we would die. So Jesus says, wait here, Adam and Eve, I'm symbolically speaking here. You guys wait here. And then Jesus passes through that eastern gate. The swords of God's righteousness come upon him. His body's broken, his blood is shed. But now the gateway is open. He resurrects, and then he grabs Adam and Eve and says, now we can go back into paradise. So what I found is that's why so many of the stories, the redemptive, powerful, supernatural stories of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, occur on the tops of mountains. When God gave the 10 Commandments, it was on Mount Sinai. When the fire fell from heaven with Elijah, it was on Mount Carmel. Jesus' most famous sermon is called the Sermon on the Mountain.
Yeah, I'm beginning to get something.
Jesus ascended to heaven on the Mount of Olives. He's coming back to the Mount of Olives. The temple is called the Temple Mount. So all of these prophecies, so the mountains and again the Elijah character are going to play a fascinating role in this book.
I just realized, Jack, most of these encounters, they're on mountains.
You got it! That's right. You got it.
Man, I hate to quit, but I got to let this man go to bed so I can abuse him tomorrow at Crossing the News. But there's just so much we could talk about. But maybe we'll whet their appetite. This book's available now. You don't have to. You can get it on Amazon. Just On the Mountain of the Lord, Ray Bentley and Bodie Thoene. I'm from Maine. I can't get it.
Oh, you can do it. You're from Kentucky now. You can say things.
I'm from Kentucky now, so. Great stuff, and I can attest. I love the book, and
I love his books. And I just read his latest one, Seven Clocks a Ticking. Yeah. So you got to buy that one too.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Most of them's got it already. Most of the folks on my pages, we've sold hundreds of them.
That's awesome.
We're going into our second printing here in January, so we're running out. So
praise the Lord.
Buying, they can't even keep them on the shelf.
Good stuff.
So, and I'm humbled by that. That's God, and thank the Lord for that.
Amen.
And we got Ann Graham,
Ann
on the back. Yes. By the way, she's not doing well right here.
Yeah, pray for Ann. She's a dear friend of my wife and myself, and she's got a great spirit, and she's battling this, this cancer. But you know,
I heard that it wasn't responding too well. And
well, the chemo was stronger than her tiny. She's a tiny little person,
yeah.
and it was real strong, and so she's weak. But they think that the progress is being made, and she's doing. Her spirits are great. So just pray that God give her grace and strength, and
of course Mark Biltz is here.
Yep, Mark Biltz, yeah.
Chris Mitchell, I'm not familiar with him, but
he's a CBN guy. He's the correspondent in Jerusalem for
Middle
CBN.
East Bureau Chief.
Yeah.
That's good. So, all right. Well, Pastor Ray, we love you. Appreciate your ministry. And
thank you. I love and appreciate you.
When I think of Ray Bentley, I think of somebody that is very knowledgeable about everything Israel. I know nobody knows it all, but you've got. The first time that I met you, I could feel that Israel was a big deal to you.
Very, very big.
And he's the kind of guy you like to, talk to and learn from, because some of us are just coming up into this and learning as we go, and you've been there for a while. So.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're living in the most exciting hour of human history.
Yeah, we sure are. And I believe we are that final generation.
We are. I believe it too, Dan. Yeah. I really do.
The day is fast approaching.
Yep.
All right. Well, you listen to the God's Final Jubilee program. My good friend Pastor Ray Bentley from California, and his book, and of course my website, godsfinaljubilee.com. If you want to read about me or any of my books and whatnot, and so we'll let it go there, and we'll see you all next time.
Adios.
And Brother Ray.